Chapter 1, A Fateful Encounter. On a cool autumn evening, when the golden rays of the sunset played on the wet asphalt of the city streets, Keanu Reeves, returning in his elegant car after a late shoot, noticed a figure in the twilight that immediately attracted his attention. Next to his car, as if forgotten by time and fate, sat a homeless man, dressed in a shabby jacket and old, worn-out shoes. His face, hidden under a shabby hood, radiated not only fatigue, but also some deep-rooted wisdom, as if each wrinkled curve contained the experience of many years of struggle and patience. Keanu, accustomed to the bustle of film sets and crowded studios, for the first time felt a strange excitement, as if fate was preparing a meeting for him that could turn his understanding of the world upside down. Approaching the car, he couldn't help but stop to take a closer look at this stranger. Initial surprise gave way to growing interest. In the homeless man's eyes there was a spark that, despite his apparent poverty, spoke of the richness of his inner world. Keanu remembered how, as a child, he dreamed of becoming not just an actor, but a person capable of understanding the essence of life, mastering ancient arts and finding the path to self-knowledge. This meeting awakened echoes of old memories in his soul, when the world seemed mysterious, and everyone he met could become a teacher capable of imparting priceless knowledge. The man, sensing the attention, looked up and met Keanu's gaze for the first time. There was a sparkle in his deep, penetrating eyes, as if he could see not only Reeves's appearance, but also his inner being. Without further ado, he held out a tattered but neatly folded cloth bag, as if inviting a conversation. Keanu, at once embarrassed and enchanted by this unexpected encounter, took a step forward, not knowing that this casual gesture would become a turning point in his life. Soon they found themselves on the side of the road, where the sounds of a quiet city and the rustle of fallen leaves filled the air. Keanu was surprised to discover that the conversation with the stranger was not so much casual as it was filled with deep meaning. The man began to tell how, as a young student, he once devoted himself to studying martial arts and finding inner harmony. His voice, quiet and even, was filled with memories of old times, when every movement, every training session was not just a physical exercise, but a real ritual, opening the way to self-knowledge. He told how life circumstances, full of tragedy and loss, forced him to abandon his former ideals and set off on a lonely path that led him to life on the streets. Keanu listened with bated breath, feeling how every word of this wise storyteller penetrated his soul. In his voice there was not only pain and regret, but also gratitude for the trials he had gone through, because they were what made him who he became. The stranger told how his first martial arts teacher not only taught him fighting techniques, but also opened his eyes to the philosophy of life, to a path where fortitude and the ability to forgive were more important than material goods. "I may have lost my home," he said quietly, "but I never lost the ability to see the light even in the darkest corners of this world." These words sounded for Keanu, it is like an echo of a long-forgotten truth, awakening memories of youth, when every encounter was filled with meaning, and every mistake was a lesson on the path to perfection. Fascinated by the story, Keanu felt a desire to help this man, to bring him back some hope and warmth. He remembered how he himself, as a young man, had once dreamed of sincere encounters that could change his fate, and how the wise teachings of teachers helped him overcome life's adversities. That is why, without thinking twice, he invited the homeless man to join him. Keanu invited him to his home, promising not only a cup of hot tea, but also the opportunity to share the warmth of human communication, which is so often lost in the bustle of the big city. Thus began their fateful meeting, when two completely different worlds came together on the same road to share experiences, pain and, ultimately, gain a new understanding of life. Keanu Reeves, unaware that fate was preparing a lesson for him, already felt how this meeting could change his view of the world, awaken forgotten values and open the door to a new era, where true mastery and wisdom are transmitted not through diplomas and titles, but through sincere communication and understanding of the human soul. Chapter 2, Forgotten Lessons of the Past. The homeless man sitting on the cold asphalt under the dim light of a street lamp slowly looked up, and his deep, time-worn eyes met the eyes of Keanu Reeves. In that moment, his gaze reflected the full weight of the years he had lived, full of pain, loss, and incredible trials that had transformed him from a young martial arts student into a man who, despite all the adversity, retained inner strength and wisdom. He took a deep breath, as if preparing to reveal to the world a story he had long hidden from outsiders, and began to speak in a quiet but confident voice. Once upon a time, he began, I was young, full of dreams and aspirations. My days were filled with training, discipline, and the desire to comprehend the true art of combat. My teacher, wise and strict, taught me not only technique, but also the philosophy of life. Every movement, every blow was a lesson that opened the doors to self-knowledge and understanding of the world around me. I learned not just to hit, but to understand how through the struggle with one's own weaknesses one can become stronger, how through patience and discipline one can achieve harmony between body and soul. His voice trembled with memories, and in every word he spoke there was an echo of his long-ago youth, when life seemed full of possibilities, and the future, an endless road, where each obstacle was only a test leading to great achievements. However, fate turned out to be cruel. One succession of tragic events, betrayal, loss of loved ones and the destruction of the ideals to which he aspired led him to the path of loneliness and oblivion. But then something happened that I could never have imagined, he continued, lowering his gaze, my teacher, the person I trusted most, was forced to leave me forever. And with his departure, the support, the foundation on which I built my faith in martial arts disappeared. Life, which then seemed filled with meaning, turned into an endless struggle for survival. I lost not only my home, but the very essence of what I once learned. The word sounded as if the wind was blowing away the dust of memories, and in the hall of street lighting there was a feeling that every rustle and every echo of the past was returning him to those distant days. He spoke of how after the departure of the teacher, the world for him ceased to be bright and full of possibilities, each new day brought only cold and loneliness. He was forced to choose between preserving honor and the struggle for survival, between the past full of lessons and dreams and the present, where cynicism and hopelessness became his constant companions. I ended up on the street not because I lost faith in myself, he said quietly, but because the system that was supposed to support us failed to understand that true art requires freedom and understanding. I was abandoned, left without a home, but not deprived of what my first lessons taught me. His story was filled with sadness, but also with an undeniable wisdom born of trials and failures. He spoke of how each blow of fate, each loss, was not an end, but an opportunity to begin again, learning from mistakes and gradually gaining a fortitude that is not subject to material circumstances. I realized, he continued, that a true teacher is not someone who wears medals and titles, but someone who helps you see the light even in the darkest times. My learning continued not in the gym, but on the streets, where I learned the value of each day and learned to appreciate the moments when you can find joy in the simple things. With every word he spoke, time seemed to slow down, and his listeners seemed to invisibly empathize with every beat of his heart. He spoke of small victories, those rare moments when, despite all the adversity, he felt that a spark of courage and striving for perfection still burned within him. These lessons, acquired through pain and deprivation, became for him the foundation on which he was able to build a new inner world, full of understanding and compassion. Today, when I found myself on the street, I did not lose my way, but only temporarily got lost, he said with quiet confidence. True martial arts are not only technique and strength, it is the ability to maintain dignity and faith in yourself, even when chaos reigns around you. And if I was able to endure all these trials, then each of you can find the same strength within yourself, if only you dare to look deep within your soul. His story became more and more personal and frank, as if he were sharing the most intimate part of his heart, in which, despite all the scars of the past, a flame still beat, capable of warming on the coldest nights. The homeless man's words made Keanu think about his own life, about how true knowledge and wisdom often come not through luxury and success, but through a collision with reality, through the pain of loss and through the endless desire to rise after each fall. This meeting seemed predetermined by fate, like a lesson that needed to be learned, like a door leading to a new understanding of true values. Chapter 3, Awakening Forgotten Traditions. In the silence of the early morning, when the city had not yet woken up and only the first rays of the sun were beginning to break through the light haze, the teacher began his story, as if opening an ancient book in which the secrets of lost times were recorded. His voice, quiet and even, gradually filled the air with memories of the old days, when martial arts were not just a set of techniques, but an entire philosophy imbued with respect for nature, discipline and harmony between body and soul. He spoke of how, in his youth, his mentor taught him to see the rhythms of life, how every movement became a manifestation of inner strength, and every blow, not aggression, but protection from the chaos of the outside world. Remember, he said, true mastery is born through patience, when you learn to hear not only the sound of battle, but also the whisper of the wind and the rhythm of your own heart, he said, and they sounded not only regretful about the time lost, but also a deep belief that every trial carries a lesson. His speech was filled with metaphors. He compared traditional martial arts to an ancient tree, whose roots go deep into the centuries, and whose branches reach to the sky, symbolizing the eternal pursuit of perfection. Every movement, every strike and block became for him not just a physical exercise, but a way to tune his mind to harmony with the world around him. A former student who had once trained under the great master remembered feeling unsure in the first days of training, as if his body was alien and his mind unable to grasp the subtle nuances of technique. At that time, it seemed to him that every failure was a defeat, every mistake a blow to his pride. However, over the years, as life made its own adjustments and he had to face the reality of cruel trials, he realized that each mistake became a brick in the foundation of his character. Every fall is an opportunity to rise even stronger, he repeated to himself, in every defeat there is a lesson that can change your whole life. These words, spoken in the silence of a modest room with the sounds of distant city traffic, penetrated the very core of his being and turned into a mantra, reminding him that true strength is born through accepting and overcoming one's own weaknesses. Memories of his first lessons, when the master taught him not only technique but also the art of living, came alive in his story like scenes from a long-forgotten film. He recalled how, under the teacher's guidance, he learned to control his breathing, how each movement was honed to perfection, and how it was through constant repetition and modesty that he gained confidence. His voice sometimes slowed down, sometimes sped up, conveying the whole range of feelings, from deep sadness for his lost youth to the joy of realizing that the mistakes of the past made him who he is today. Every blow, he said, contains energy that can transform not only the body, but also the soul. Our training is not just physical exercise, it is a path to inner enlightenment, he added, and his words sounded like an ancient spell awakening forgotten traditions. Among his stories, there were moments when he described how his master taught him to see the world without illusions, how to be humble before the power of nature, and how important it was to be one with oneself. He recalled how his teacher had told him that a true warrior was not one who could strike, but one who could maintain a balance between strength and wisdom, between fighting and forgiveness. These lessons, he said, were as important as any technique, for they laid the foundation for a true understanding of oneself and the world around one. When you find harmony within, he said, you can move through life with confidence, overcoming any obstacle, because your strength comes not from your muscles, but from the depths of your soul. His story gradually took on the character of a revelation, as if each word were a bridge connecting the past and the present. He spoke of how time, as an inexorable teacher, healed the wounds and left indelible marks at the same time, turning each trial into a precious experience. These lessons, although filled with pain, gave hope, encouraging him to remember that even in the darkest moments of life there is a light that can illuminate the path to renewal. His voice, filled with quiet confidence, reminded him that every loss, every trial can become a source of strength if you learn from them. Thus, the story of this first martial arts teacher became for Keanu Reeves not just a story about the past, but also a revelation capable of awakening forgotten traditions and returning lost wisdom. These words, sounding like an echo of ancient rituals, made him think about his path, about how important it is to preserve the memory of what his life experience taught him, and how each test passed with honor becomes a step towards a deeper understanding of oneself. The story of his life, told with such sincerity and pain, left an indelible mark on the soul of the listener, awakening the desire to learn from the mistakes of the past and move forward, with respect for those traditions that make a person stronger and wiser. Chapter 4: The Warmth of Home Comfort. After a long and heartfelt conversation on the cold street, when the twilight gave way to the soft light of the street lamps, Keanu Reeves, touched by the story of his new acquaintance, made a fateful decision: to invite the teacher into his home. His car, which had always symbolized rapid changes in a dynamic rhythm of life, today became the starting point for a new, warmer and more meaningful chapter. Keanu, sensing that behind the rough shell of the homeless man there was a person with rich life experience, could not leave him on the street on this cool evening. Keanu's house turned out to be an oasis of comfort in the heart of a big city, a spacious living room with high ceilings, soft light from table lamps and the delicate aroma of freshly brewed tea created an atmosphere where every corner breathed peace and kindness. Sitting in comfortable armchairs by the fireplace, where the fire cast whimsical shadows on the walls with a quiet dance, they began their evening ritual, turning a simple tea party into a deep exchange of spiritual experiences. A teacher whose life had been filled with trials and losses spoke of the time in his youth when he first encountered martial arts. His voice was soft but confident, as if he were reliving those long hours of training, when every movement was filled with meaning and inner discipline. He told how his first teacher not only taught him the techniques of punching and blocking, but also instilled in him a respect for life, taught him to find a balance between strength and humility, between passion and cold calculation. These stories were saturated with nostalgia and sadness, but they also contained a glimmer of hope, hope that even in the most difficult moments of life, you can find light if you maintain faith in yourself. Keanu, listening to these stories, felt the ice in his heart slowly melt, and a desire to not only understand but also accept this ancient lesson was born in him. He remembered his first steps in the world of martial arts, when youthful ambitions and unconscious dreams seemed to burn the brightest, but then gradually gave way to wisdom and self-knowledge. Quietly looking into the eyes of the teacher, he understood that a true master is one who is able to transform the pain of defeat into an invaluable experience, and each loss into a step towards inner growth. Tea, warming the hands and filling the room with a soft aroma, became a symbol of this inner renewal, each drop awakening in memory the images of those days when life seemed like an endless school, full of lessons and discoveries. The conversation moved from memories to the present, and the teacher shared with undisguised sincerity how life on the streets had been a test of character for him. He spoke of how the lack of a roof over his head could not break his spirit, how each cold night spent looking for shelter taught him to appreciate every moment of warmth and care. His words, filled with pain, but also gratitude for the lessons learned, inspired deep respect in Keanu. He understood that this man contained not only a story of loss and disappointment, but also wisdom that could not be found in textbooks or lectures, wisdom born from a life full of passions, mistakes and, most importantly, a sincere desire for self-improvement. In the cozy light of the home, over another cup of tea, they began to discuss how times are changing. Keanu talked about his projects, about new challenges of our time, about how in a rapidly changing world, not only technological innovations are important, but also human warmth, the ability to support each other in moments of doubt. The teacher listened attentively, sometimes nodding, sometimes adding quiet comments full of wisdom and life experience. Their dialogue became a reminder that even the difference in age and life paths is not an obstacle to real communication. On the contrary, it is this difference that can enrich each of the interlocutors, making their views more multifaceted and profound. With every minute spent together, the atmosphere became warmer and more trusting. Keanu felt his soul filling with peace, as forgotten values regained their meaning. The teacher's gaze, full of soft sadness and at the same time unbending strength, conveyed to him not only knowledge, but also hope that every meeting in life is a chance to find a new mentor, a friend, a person capable of showing that in the world of even the deepest losses there is a place for revival and love. The tea they drank became a kind of symbol of this renewal, hot, aromatic, it warmed not only the body, but also the heart, connecting the past with the present and opening the way to the future, where there is no place for indifference. Thus, in the quiet comfort of the house, where every corner breathed history and warmth, a new friendship was born, based on mutual respect, understanding and a sincere desire to learn from each other. Keanu Reeves, unaware that fate had already prepared many trials and discoveries for him, realized that evening for the first time that true mastery and wisdom are sometimes hidden in the most inconspicuous guises, and that even a homeless person who has lost everything can become the first teacher capable of opening eyes to the true value of life. Chapter 5, Reconciliation and a New Beginning. As the morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a warm golden glow over the living room, Keanu Reeves and his first teacher, a former homeless man, sat at a table filled with the aroma of freshly brewed tea and the soft sounds of the awakening city. In this intimate space, where time seemed to slow down, both men felt the past and present merge into one, offering hope for a new beginning. Conversation, what began as an exchange of memories of old times, turned into a deep dialogue about the meaning of life, the trials that tempered their souls, and the lessons learned from pain and loss. The teacher, with his weathered face and piercing eyes, spoke calmly, as if reciting an ancient legend. Each word filled with wisdom. He told how his youth spent training and under the guidance of a great master had given him not only the ability to master technique, but also the ability to see the world through the prism of inner strength. I remember, he said in a quiet voice, how each fall taught me how to rise, how each failure opened my eyes to the true value of the spirit. His words, laced with sincerity, took on special meaning in the morning light, giving Kean the understanding that true strength lies not in the outward glitz of success, but in the ability to embrace life in all its fullness, with all its joys and sorrows. Keanu, listening to the teacher's stories, felt how forgotten feelings of youthful aspiration for self-knowledge and search for truth were awakening inside him. He remembered his first steps in the world of martial arts, when every movement was filled with trepidation and unknown energy, and every meeting with the teacher left a mark on his soul. Now, sitting next to this man, whose life path was strewn with trials, Keanu understood that a chance meeting on the street had become a turning point, capable of turning his inner world upside down. Sometimes fate gives us meetings, he thought to himself, to show that even in the darkest corners of life you can find light, he thought, looking at the wisdom reflected in the eyes of his interlocutor. Over a cup of tea, the conversation moved from personal memories to thoughts about the future. The teacher told how, even after losing everything material, he managed to preserve the spark that helps him see the beauty of life. His stories about his first martial arts lessons were not so much about technique as about the importance of being able to forgive, accept mistakes and find the strength to move on. Every loss, he said, tempers us, and every failure is an opportunity to start all over again, with greater wisdom and patience. These words resonated with Keanu, making him think about the value of every moment and that true mastery is achieved through inner harmony and acceptance of the inevitable. The mutual respect and genuine sympathy that arose between them turned their dialogue into a kind of ritual of reconciliation with the past and finding a new path. Keanu, touched by the teacher's frankness, began to share his experiences, telling how in the world of fame and success he often felt loneliness and emptiness, despite external achievements. He admitted that he often dreamed of real communication that could penetrate deeper than superficial praise and small talk. His confessions were full of tenderness and sincerity, and at that moment both men felt that their souls had found a kindred spark in each other. The light of a new day reminded them that every encounter, no matter how random it may seem, can change their lives. In this morning magic, where the sounds of the city mingled with the quiet voices of memory, Keanu and his teacher took an important step. They decided that the lessons of the past should not remain in the dust of oblivion, but should inspire a future where love, respect and wisdom will become guiding stars. Their communication became a symbol reconciliation with past mistakes, forgiveness and the opportunity to start all over again, with new strength and faith in the best. So, over a cup of hot tea in a cozy house filled with quiet harmony and the light of the morning rays, two people so different in their life paths found a common language, which became the basis for a new beginning. At that moment, Keanu Reeves realized that true teachers come not with diplomas and medals, but with life experience, which every minute lived, every difficulty endured with dignity, can convey. And although their paths could diverge, this evening will forever remain in the memory of both as a time when the past, present and future merged into one, giving hope and warmth that can lead forward, despite all adversity.